Hey guys, this is Eckhart Slaughter. Hello and welcome to another video. So, as you guys may, or I guess may not know, I was a huge fan of Star Wars Visions. Did I like every short that was in the Vision series? No, but generally I thought it was an amazing opportunity to breathe some fresh life into Star Wars, and I thought many of the shorts did exactly that. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but let's get to the main news in this video. I'm going to link to this story down below, but Jordan Maison and his site Cinelinx have reported that new Star Wars Vision shorts are not only coming, but coming this year. We've talked a lot about Jordan Maison on the channel. I think he's reliable. He's a friend of mine, but I'd say he's definitely one of the more consistent scoopers. Again, you can read his full article, which I've linked down below, to see where he's getting this, but I'm going to include some relevant sections here. First of all, one thing that makes me believe that this is likely true is that he says over the past few days, he's had multiple independent sources reach out to tell him the good news. And why this is reassuring for me is that if he's had multiple people in the past few days tell him, there's most likely some news that's come down from high that a lot of people are now hearing about. Also, as he says, multiple independent sources means most likely, unless a bunch of people are being messed with, that this is reliable news. As an aside, I've played the leaking game before as well. I've had people, probably some of the same sources that Jordan's used, reach out to me with information. And it's never the case of just getting like anonymous random emails from people. Usually these are real people, you know their names, who you have real relationships with, who are also putting their reputation on the line somewhat, although not as directly. So if he's got multiple of these sources, I tend to believe it. As an aside, I will tell one little story. Before the Kenobi trailer released, a lot of us heard from the same couple of people that the trailer would be shown at a certain date, and it wasn't. I heard it from someone directly involved in the show, so when cases like that happened, most likely that was initially the plan, but it was changed. Just thought that would be some useful insight, and after getting burned that one time, I tend not to go in the leaking game too much anymore. Anyway, I am personally extremely hopeful for Star Wars Visions. As I said, I thought season 1 was a great breath of fresh air into the franchise, and the great thing about these non-canon storylines is that they can draw on the themes and the mythos of Star Wars, reignite the love of Star Wars that some people have maybe seen dulled by movies they don't like or whatever else, without having to tie in to that overall lore. I personally do not understand whatsoever how some people don't care about stories if they're not canon. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars Legends fan. Those stories technically aren't canon anymore, but I don't enjoy reading the Thrawn trilogy any less now than I did then. When it comes to canon, although I do like continuity, and I think if you're trying to tell a big story, that there should be an element of continuity that permeates most of the main story editions, I do also really like taking the opportunity to go have other adventures, especially in mediums like animation or video game, where you can tell these fun self-contained stories. When I was playing Rogue Squadron back in the day on the N64, I wasn't worried whatsoever about whether that was strictly canon, but I was still invested in the actual story. On the other hand, based on a lot of the things we've heard, it seems like certain new Star Wars stories, including Battlefront, have been somewhat hurt by having to stick strictly to canon. We've heard the stories of how they can't put good guys and bad guys ships because Lucasfilm doesn't like that, for example. I actually got a bit into this conversation on r/Star Wars Leaks, where I said I don't really understand how some people can be so narrow-minded to the degree to which they will only watch or appreciate something if it's within the continuity. Someone responded by saying, "Are you kidding me? You run a Star Wars channel about lore and you're giving me shit for caring about the lore connecting? Hypocritical gatekeeper. I like Star Wars. It should not be surprised that I like Star Wars stuff less if it deviates from being Star Wars like the twins and Ronan did. None of these shorts even used any Star Wars music." And I actually see partially where he's coming from there, despite his tone. If you like Star Wars for certain characteristics and those aren't carried over into new works, he talks about the music, for example, then I can understand why you wouldn't like the product. But to me, that's something that's completely separate from continuity. I actually really liked a lot of the shorts because I felt like they captured the spirit of Star Wars without being a retread of what we already got before. I compare that with like The Force Awakens, which was a lot like Star Wars, and I really liked it, especially when it came out, but was also also very, very similar to a Star Wars story we've gotten. Not that every story within the continuity has to be derivative, but I just think a really fresh take, especially where it is something like this, i.e. short form, kind of low pressure short animations, it just works perfectly. I do want to take a bit of time now and talk about Star Wars Visions Season 1, especially for people who haven't seen it yet. And I would recommend you do watch Star Wars Visions. It's on Disney+. The animations themselves are each relatively short, and the good thing is they're all very different stylistically. Like, some of them I just straight up did not like, but I'd go to the next one and it would be completely different. I think the most impressive short to me was the first one, which tells the story of the Ronin, who's a traveling warrior and also a former Sith, having a battle with a current Sith Lord. And that story was greatly expanded in the Ronin tie-in novel, which was actually one of my favorite Star Wars books that's released in this sort of new era of Lucasfilm book publishing. The book is definitely worth reading. The universe is still Star Wars, while also, from a lore sense, being completely different from anything we've gotten before, which I think is pretty cool. I also really like The Village Bride. It was definitely a slower, more thoughtful Star Wars story, kind of about the Force, I guess. The Elder was another amazing one. It basically showed two Jedi running across a probably dark Jedi. That was the one that I thought could fit most easily into canon. I also thought Lop and Ocho was great. It was very beautiful aesthetically and also pretty close to a story that could fit within canon, but not constrained by continuity. And finally, I think the one that most people latched onto was The Ninth Jedi. I'm not going to tell you guys what happened in that because that would somewhat spoil it, and I think it is a really, really interesting story that you should check out. Overall, though, I think more Star Wars Visions is great. I think stories that aren't strictly canon offer a lot of potential to the franchise, whether that's in video games or stories, like From a Certain Point of View, the compendium story that released about episode 4. There's also one for episode 5. More of those and less rigidity, less needing to stick to the exact elements of continuity. Everyone knows that George Lucas famously said continuity is for wimps. I personally think there's a place for it, and I think to a degree he probably does too, but it's always good to have more options, especially where Star Wars could get stale if we're being forced to retread and retell the same stories for damn near 50 years now. But guys, that's all I've got to say. Let me know, did you enjoy the first Star Wars Visions season? Was there one short that stood out to you? And do you hope that this new season of Star Wars Visions actually happens, or would you be glad if it turned out to be some false reporting from Jordan? Let me know all that and more down below. Till next time, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.